Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight our guest is David Dean, the mind artist. We're going to be talking about the powers of the mind, telekinesis, telepathy, astral projection, I'm for sure. I think this guy is going to pretty much cover every topic that involves the special abilities of the mind. And to me, it's the most undiscovered country of them all. You know, everybody talks about we haven't explored our seas, the vastness of space, but we don't even know the inner workings of our own mind and the power of our own mind. To me, it's an incredible thing, the mind and what it can do. So we're going to get a lot to talk about that tonight. And of course, what we do every Sunday night is the World Wide Web of Weird, so we definitely want to get rolling at that. We will take phone calls after the second half of the show. You can ask David questions. We'll give out those phone lines later. But let's go ahead and get rolling into the show. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup, and as I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. We're streaming out live to Facebook on our page, Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, and we're also streaming out to Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. So if you're watching, you can listen at Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network if you have to stop watching, and if you're watching also, we play music out the late nines. We'll talk about Late Night in the Midlands that you can't hear on Facebook, so if you hear quiet before the commercial break, don't freak out. We'll talk. I remind people of that constantly before the commercial breaks, just because I don't want people to think we went off air, because I've seen some people think that at times, new people to the show. And if you're new, welcome. This is Paranormal Soup, and like I said, our guest tonight is David Dean, the mind artist. We'll bring him on after the first commercial break. Joining us as well is my lovely co-host, Jamie D. Let me bring her beautiful image up on the screen here. All right, well, there she is now. That's Jeffrey Chan, our video engineer. Here's Jamie D. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
Doing great. Happy Father's Day.
Yes, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, including my own father. I didn't get to see him today. I had to work. I really wanted to see my father. He did me a solid recently. This is how good my dad is. I had to have another toenail removed. Ouch. I'm actually wearing a boot right now, and I did not get to mow my lawn before I had to have the procedure done because it rained all the time. My father actually came out and mowed my lawn for me. Such a good dad he is. Still, you know. Love him to death. Love you, Dad. And tonight we'll be playing, for people, like I said, watching on Facebook, we play music out to Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, and I will be playing a couple Moody Blues songs for my dad. That's his favorite band. And also for Art Bell. Today is Art Bell's birthday. I think he would have been, 74, I think. And that was one of his favorite bands. I played these same songs, I think, right after Art Bell died. So I'm a big fan of Moody Blues myself. I've seen them 3 times. So, all right, let's go ahead and do what we do every Sunday night is World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, we're going to start off this. I thought this was an interesting article because I've known about this. Woman sues NASA over vial of moon dust. You're like, why would somebody be suing over a vial of moon dust? This comes from Unexplained Mysteries. We'll get to that. For people watching listening out on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, we are a webcast out to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup Facebook page where we show videos, we show pictures, all that stuff. You can always check it out later on our Paranormal Soup YouTube channel or on our Facebook page. Let's get into the article, though. All right, so this comes from unexplainedmysteries.com. This woman has a vial of moon dust that she received. Let me see here. I got to get the article up here. Laura Murray Cisco had originally, or Cisco, I think that's how you pronounce it, had originally received the vial from her mother, who had in turn received it as a gift from legendary Apollo astronaut due to his close friendship with her husband. To Laura Ann Marie, best of luck, Neil Armstrong, Apollo 11, included the note. If Neil Armstrong gave you the moon dust, it should be your moon dust. I agree with this lady. Well, of course, it's handed down to her, but it should stay in the family. Now, following NASA's insistence that all samples of moon dust belong to the country itself as opposed to any specific individual, Cisco has filed a lawsuit in an effort to establish her own ownership of it. Smart woman. Laura was rightfully given this stuff by Neil Armstrong, so it's hers, and we just want to establish that legally, said her lawyer, Chris McHugh. The case is similar to one from 2016 involving a collector who won the right to keep Armstrong's moon dust bag after the U.S. government accidentally included it in an online auction. They were selling it before they even had it. We have the rights to own it, you don't, and we can sell it for a bunch of money too. I heard on the radio somebody else said, we landed on the moon first. It's our sovereign territory because we landed there first. I think all bets are off. And I think there should be an expiration date. If it's ours, why haven't we gone back? I don't think it's any of ours. You know me. I think there's aliens on the moon. Yeah, there's a reason why I haven't gone back. I'm still waiting for China to get there. I want to know. I want to put people on the moon and tell us the they probably wouldn't tell us anywhere. It's China. Let's move on. This one, Ira Robinson, the Late Night in the Midlands program director and a host, sent me this one for the World Wide Web of Weird, and I thought this was interesting. A bit gross, kind of, if you think about it, which I think about these things deeply. Georgian landfill overrun by hundreds of chicks after spoiled eggs hatch. A landfill near the city of Marnouli in Georgia, I think they're talking about not Georgia, the state here, recently turned into a chick hatchery after the scorching heat caused hundreds of spoiled eggs disposed of by a local poultry farmer to hatch. A video posted on Sunday, and it's what we're playing right now on our show, by user Sahid Barhamov, shows the landfill crawling with cute yellow chickens, or chicks, chirping continuously and looking for their mother. We're not going to play all that chirping. Also visible in the video is a large pile of eggs, which is presumably where all the tiny birds came from. As you can imagine, the video quickly went viral on social media. It's crazy. I thought, I'm not a farm person or an animal person or whatever, but am I wrong? I mean, the eggs you get in the store, are those potentially going to hatch? I always thought that they're not fertilized, right?
I'm as confused as you are right now.
Somebody messed up. But yeah, this landfill's going to be, imagine trying to get all these little chickens out of a landfill. There's all these little places for them to hide. I think they're going to have chickens there forever. All right, moving on. Number 3. I thought this was kind of interesting. This is from dailymail.co.uk. Is this what God looks like is the title of the article. Scientists produce an ephit of I don't even know what an ephit is. Ephit of a youthful and feminine deity based on the response of hundreds of Christians. Is ephit? I thought that was like a dating site or something. At least that's according to a bizarre study by scientists in North Carolina who have created an ephit of God based on what American Christians think he looks like. Oh, of course, then my article goes haywire on me. Come on now. All right. Wow, I hate that. They put all these stupid ads up. Far from being an old man with a beard, they found people's perceptions of God tend towards to a deity that is young and less Caucasian. Oh, see, it looks Caucasian to me. I thought it was kind of it looks kind of white to me. That's kind of biased. But I guess they're saying, in their opinion, it doesn't look Caucasian. A team of psychologists at the University of Northern Carolina, Chapel Hill, created the sketch with the help of 511 American Christians. Participants in the study saw hundreds of randomly varying faces pairs. Sorry, I cannot read tonight, like every night. Selected which faces from each pair appeared for more like how they imagined God to appear. But by combining all the selected faces, the researchers could assemble a composite face of God that reflected how each person imagined God to appear. And it's kind of like not a very clear picture. It's kind of blurry, but it's just like a combo of everybody's idea of what God looks like. It kind of, I don't know, it looks like a young Brad Pitt to me. I don't know. What do you look like to you, Jamie? You're muted.
Pretty general.
You've been muting yourself all night before we even got on.
Pretty basic.
Yeah, no, I wasn't I was expecting some I don't know. It's not what I would picture God looking like, but I guess. I want God to look.
I don't picture God as a human, though.
Yeah. If I did picture him as a human, I'd want him to look like Chong. Cheech and Chong. I'd be more feel better about why everything's all messed up in the universe. That explains it. Okay, let's move on. All right, number 4, mother films ghostly Victorian apparition. This is a video and it's posted on dailymail.co.uk. Mother filming her son 5 riding his bike outside 19th century mansion is stunned to capture ghostly Victorian apparition looking out from the window. A mother was left terrified after, and terrified, I love how they over-exaggerate. I'm sure she was terrified. A mother was left terrified after she watched a video of her young son cycling only to see a ghostly Victorian apparition looking over her. Louise Letton, 41, caught the spooky footage on camera as she took her 5-year-old son to ride his bike at Old Way Mansion, a property that dates back to the 19th century. She filmed him going around in circles and later watched the footage back only to discover what appears to be a ghost watching over her son. For people listening, you do see this little 5-year-old like riding around, and up in a window you see kind of somebody like in a black and white kind of outfit. It does look like it could be Victorian. Let's see what else I got in this article. Louise from Peyton, Devon, said, "My partner and I split off with him going to walk the dogs on the fields, and I took the little boy to the car park to practice riding his bike. The car park is flat and perfect to do it. I was just filming him, and that was it. It wasn't until I was home in bed watching the film back when I noticed it." Well, who's to say that's just not a real person sitting in the window? I mean...
Yep.
I mean,
That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, it just looks like a real person, but I didn't put the close-up photo. There is a close-up photo. Go to dailymail.co.uk. When you see the close-up photo, it's a bit odd. It is a bit odd, so I can see why there's some interest in it. It's more than just a blurring. If you look at it, you'll have to see it. I should have posted. Maybe Jeff will try to zoom in on it here, but it's kind of hard on our video feed. It looks like somebody in Victorian clothes. It looks like a man, actually, if you get close to it. Like he has a beard and a mustache and an old-fashioned hairstyle. Whoever it is, his style is a bit out of date.
So
Jeff is trying to zoom in.
With their eyes and not the
No,
person?
she didn't notice the person. She didn't notice the
well.
person until afterwards. That's what I'm saying. Who's to say if it's real or a person or not? I don't know.
Easy to say stuff.
Yeah, but maybe it is a ghost. I don't know. Well, all right, but let's move on. I know Jeff's still. See, I'll move on to the next article here in a second, but Jeff's trying to zoom it in. It doesn't do it justice, Jeff. You really got to see it on the website because it's going to get too blurry with the video. But let's move on. We got a good guest tonight. Okay, moving on. Number 5 is, this is a video shot in Iowa. This is from HelensTaleWeebly.com. During a storm in Iowa, witnesses filmed several UFOs. There's not any really article to this, but you're going to see. There's some fascination with me when you have UFO footage like this in the middle of a storm. Because there was, when Roswell happened, there was a storm. Some people, I've always some people theorized back in the day, lightning hit the spacecraft. You think the aliens could account for lightning? These aliens don't seem to mind. They're flying right through the storm, right through the lightning. If it is that, or is it ball lightning? That's my other question. I'm not familiar. I'm not a weather expert to tell you if it's ball lightning or not, but it's pretty interesting that what he sees in this video. Yeah, I wish I could give a link to the video. Just type in YouTube during a storm in Iowa UFO. Type those words in and you will find this video and watch it. It's interesting. I don't think it's fake. I don't think this guy's trying to pull anything. I think he was really filming something. And there looks like there's something up in the sky. There's some bunch of good UFO stuff came out in the last 2 days. I didn't get to add to the World Wide Web Weird we'll have in next week. There's some other videos. There's a newscast where they caught it during a storm. So there's a lot of interesting UFO stuff recently. All right, let's move on, though, because, like I said, we got a good guest, so I want to make sure we get to him. All right, number 6. Now, this has been extremely viral. Now, I got this from the dailystar.co.uk. There's better... I picked this article because I want to pick fun of their title. All right, hold the video a second. Hold this video a second, Jeff, if you can pause it before we get to this. All right, so I saw this title. The first time I ever saw anything about this video was this article. Half human, half dog, 7-foot beast leaves man terrified as savaging his pet. Half human, half dog. What? Now, this is an incredible video. This is an incredible beast, for sure. I mean, but is it paranormal? I wouldn't say that. And I wouldn't say it's half human. It's incredible. What it looks like. I'm a Game of Thrones fan, and maybe it's just depth perception. Maybe these are just really small trees. But, man, this thing looks huge. And it reminds me of the dire wolf from Game of Thrones. Yes, I'm a nerd. I'm a geek. I love Game of Thrones. But it looks like a dire wolf. This thing's huge. And now there's this other dog. There's no hardly anything. And Daily Star, all they do is in the video you hear a mutt as it confronts something in the woods, barking to mark its territory, but as it gains confidence and nears closer, the massive intruder leaps off the ground and lunges towards the pooch. Behind the camera, you hear its owner shouting, "Hey, hey," as he begins to panic. He should have panicked the moment he saw this thing. The beast then grabs a hold of the dog, and a loud scream is heard before the video cuts out. And that's what happens. And I don't know if I got the whole video in here where you hear the dog scream. I think I didn't, because I don't want to hear it. Because there's no ending. There's nothing else to the article. Like, what happened to him? You know, they give you a bunch of other legend and lore in this article, but I can't find out what happened to the dog. I want to know what happened to the dog and the owner, you know, because the owner's life, in my opinion, is in jeopardy. All right, go ahead and play the video. I've talked too much. Go. Now, for people listening, you can see this wolf, like, you can see the wolf's ears. It's laying on the ground while this dog is barking at it. And it's kind of like, what are you doing? What are you bothering me for? When this thing gets up, it's massive. There it goes. The dog kind of takes a run for it, but then he gets brave and goes back. Yeah, and then this is it slowed down. Like I said, I think I edited it out where I didn't want to hear, because the end of this video, you hear the guy panicking, going, "Hey, hey, hey!" And then you see the wolf, like, turn around here. Yeah, I guess it does kind of show it. But the wolf turns around and clamps down on the dog, and it screams. I cut that out because I didn't want to hear it again. That it, if I knew if the dog lived, and brave little dog, I would play it. But I don't know if the dog lived, and I don't want to hear it. It kind of breaks my heart. But man, this thing is massive. Can you believe the size of it, Jamie? I mean, it's huge.
Yeah, it's a pretty big dog.
I mean, maybe it's just depth perception or wrong, but look at it compared to that doesn't look like a small mutt. That looks like a pretty big dog itself.
Like a dog cub.
Yeah, but that's a big wolf. But I love how they take these articles and, like, half human, half werewolf or whatever, like, they totally amp it up more than it is. This is just a majestic creature, which are, their environment's being encroached on. And, so people are, seeing these things, and yeah, they're going to attack people. But it's crazy how big this thing is. We need to move on. I do want to do a Dogman show. This is not a Dogman. This is like a wolf or a dire wolf. This is a pretty big wolf. I do want to do a Dogman show. When I first saw that, I was like, ooh, Dogman on video? Really? No, of course not. But it still was really interesting. I had to play the video because, like I said, this thing was so massive. All right, last up. Now, this is a little warning. If kids are watching, this might not be the article for you. And if you are easily grossed out, too late because Jeff's already posted it on the Facebook if you're watching. But if you're easily grossed out, might want to turn away and come back after the commercial break. This is from Vice.com. I really don't like Vice. I have issues with them, but this is an interesting article. The way they titled it, this guy served his friends tacos made from his own amputated leg. That's the title. All right. So if you could taste human flesh in an ethical way, would you? No. Is it the kind of question you ask after watching Silence of the Lambs? Stoned? No. No matter how I'm sorry. If you any way think about eating human flesh, see a doctor. I don't know. No matter how you respond, you never expect anyone to hold you to your answer. But in a recent Reddit post, user Incredibly Shiny Shart, shared the story of a motorcycle crash that put him face to face with a macabre hypothetical. I really doubt it's Reddit. I really doubt if this is real or not, but I don't know. When a car hit his bike and sent him careening into a nearby forest, his foot was shattered to the point that he would never be able to walk on it again. When the doctors asked if he wanted to amputate it, his one question was, "Can I keep it?" The doctor said yes. So on Sunday, July 10th, 2016, 3 weeks after the accident, Shiny, who prefers to remain anonymous, invited 10 of his most open-minded friends to a special brunch. What kind of friends do you have? They ate apple strudel, puff pastries, fruit tarts, and chocolate cake. They drank gin, lemonade punches, and mimosas. And then the main course came out, fajita tacos from Shiny's severed foot, or severed human limb, his foot. And then, what? No, it's gross enough to eat people, but one of the grossest parts on a body, to me, is the foot. I'm going through this right now. I just had a toenail removed. I could not watch them do it, and I have to bandage this thing every day, and I can't stand looking at it. I hate feet. Feet kind of disgust me. It's like the worst thing you could eat. I'd rather eat the butt. I would never eat anything, but the United States doesn't have any federal law banning cannibalism. Idaho is the only state in which the simple act of eating human flesh can land you in prison. Laws against murder, buying and selling human meat and corpses and desecration make cannibalism difficult, but technically legally in other 49 states, it's legal in the 49 states, as long as it's your, I guess, flesh. It's rare someone is able to consent to being eaten and meet someone's interested in eating them. So like I said, this guy had to have been weird, and he must have weird friends. Like I said, you can check out, it's a long article. I'm not going to read all of it from Vice.com. But seriously, dude, like, who has friends like, hey, you know how I got my foot amputated? Well, let's have a dinner party and let's make tacos out of it. Yeah, that sound like a good idea? Who has friends that do that? Seriously, that is so gross. I mean, I got to get this picture off the screen. I can't even look at it. And the foot of all the body parts, so disgusting. Like, yeah, like I watched movies. I was big, actually. What's his name? Harris. Hannibal Lecter. I like those books and stuff. But I am grossed out by that. I mean, who actually considers that? I don't know. It's weird. But that's it for the World Wide Web. What'd you say? What'd you say? Well, yeah, somebody did. That's it for the World Wide Web of Weird, guys. For people watching on Facebook, we play music out to late night in the Midlands. And as it is Father's Day, I made it as an excuse to play this band. I'm playing, like I said, Moody Blues tonight. I got some other music, but I'm playing Moody Blues tonight for my father. Happy Father's Day. Love you, Dad. That's his favorite band. I got the first concert I ever went to was Moody Blues with my parents. It's like all three of us. That's our favorite band together as a family. All right, guys. Like I said, you're going to hear quiet on Facebook. You will not hear the music, so don't freak out. But when we come back, we'll have our guest, David Dean, the Mind Artist. All right, guys, be back with you in just a few minutes. All right, tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is David Dean. And anything is possible using the power of your mind. The Mind Artist, David Dean, specializes in demonstrating and teaching untapped abilities of the subconscious mind. David Dean is known for his teachings of style of being direct and explaining all things mind-related. He gives still classes, shows, private sessions to teach, entertain, and help others. David Dean, we're going to talk tonight about his abilities. I've seen some of his videos. He's done some incredible stuff. You can find him on YouTube. You can find him on the Facebook. We have the links in the show description on the Facebook page tonight. We'll share the links in the show. Definitely check out. We're going to get in a lot of topics tonight, and we will take phone calls after the second commercial break. Let's get to our guest. You there with us, David?
Yes, I am, Jason. Good to be with you.
Good to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us. I am really interested in this topic tonight. I think you're probably my first guest to really have on. I've had psychics, mediums, and stuff like that, but you're the first person I've had on that's really talking about the power of the mind, the abilities of the mind, and what it can do. So I'm really excited to have you on. In your words, can you kind of tell the audience who you are, what you do, and how you came to do it?
Sure. Well, the name The Mind Artist has lots of different meanings, but it's the idea, the art of our thoughts, the possibility, the potential of the mind, the things that we're capable of doing. So when you're into these topics, it's sometimes very hard to capture the proper words. So I come up with The Mind Artist. Everything that I do, I also teach. So for some people, I could be classified as a mentalist, which encompasses things like hypnosis, telepathy, and telekinesis. All the things that I do, I fully believe that other people can do. And I do my best, both in workshops and classes, and shows to teach how people can cultivate these natural abilities. And that's really what they are. They are things that can be learned, teached, and developed. And we can all do them to some degree or the other. So it's kind of a mouthful, but we can start there.
Well, I said before I had you on the show, I said at the beginning of the show that, people talk about how we haven't explored the oceans or we haven't explored space. There's so much to explore out there, but the mind itself, we've barely tapped into exploring.
And we get glimpses, right? We all get glimpses in our day. We have these experiences, and they're kind of like windows into the unconscious. We all have these experiences that become very difficult to explain, that cannot be classified or put into a normal category. So I always was interested in all things mystic. Later on, I studied hypnosis for years. I have successfully been able to teach adults and kids, actually better results with kids.
Well, yeah.
Things like... Go ahead.
I was to say, well, kids, I make a lot of Star Wars references, forgive me, but, in Star Wars, the Jedi take the children to teach them. They have to be young. You hear Yoda tell, say Luke's too old, to teach, shamans or monks in Tibet. They usually take the children young too to teach them before they're influenced by the material world.
That's it. And I mean, you're born in if you're using spiritual terminology is the difficult thing.
Yeah.
So if we're using spiritual terms, you're born in the conscious state, right? Before the ego is created, let's say, or by layers of society and everything that all our experiences, we're born in a completely conscious state. And to a large degree, the spiritual quest, is just being able to retouch that state of presence, that state of consciousness, voluntarily. It's kind of going back there. So the Star Wars reference just is right on.
Yeah, I make them all the time. I can't help it. I've put down on my the census once that my religion was Jediism. Because I'm a Gnostic. I question everything, but I do believe in the power of the mind. And of course, I'm sure you can imagine me as a little kid sitting there trying to make an object move with my mind. Trying really, really hard. Didn't do it, but
listen. We do. I mean, I'm kind of known for telekinesis because it's the most visual thing that I do during the course of a presentation. And we do workshops where we actually teach other people how to bend forks and to move objects. And that image of somebody just staying there concentrating for sometimes 5, 10, 15 minutes at a time, I've witnessed a lot. But when we do them, a lot of times it's counterintuitive in the sense that there's certainly the amount of trying too hard. The idea of effort defeats itself. And you'll see that kind of that thought repeated, that general principle repeated, that effort defeats itself. Certainly in hypnosis, you will find people who want to be hypnotized, and they're truly interested. They're trying very hard, but unfortunately, them trying so hard keeps them out of hypnosis. For instance, many times, and same thing with like I say, telekinesis, and also with telepathy. All these things, the idea is really to, at some point, turn off the effort, turn off the conscious mind, and that's when you experience, for instance, zoning is one way that it's referred to in lots of times in sports.
Yeah, I was just going to say zoning. When I played sports, and I remember them talking about that with Michael Jordan, as there's a mindset.
Sure. The mindset is fundamental to anything that's going to happen, or as you go into it. And then when you're actually in the experience, so you consider a Michael Jordan or any basketball player or any athlete for that matter, right? They're sometimes they'll make a play, and then afterwards they're asked what happened, and they can't necessarily describe what happened because at that time they were so involved in the moment, 100%. Zoning or absorbed or with flow, that it becomes difficult for them to reconstruct it because the mind was not present. We should say the conscious mind was not present there. Their habitual nature had taken over so much that they were completely absorbed in activity. Same thing happens, of course, the form of a trance, but same thing happens with a very common one, of course, is dancing. You know, people go out, they'll dance, they'll lose track of time. Again, so involved in the activity, so involved in listening to the music and moving their body and what have you, that they're lost. Their conscious mind is literally on standby mode during that time.
It's like driving. Driving is, I think, the most one that I think it hypnotizes people as they drive. I mean, I know I've experienced, like, I don't remember how I got from here to here. Like, you drove it, but you were lost in La La Land. But your body and your actions, you're still driving the car. It's scary when you realize it.
Absolutely. Certainly a form of a mild trance, and those are very good examples because with a lot of these topics, people have no point of reference. So you try to show them that things like trance, things like zoning, are all kind of related. I mean, there will be people whose spiritual terminology just it doesn't make sense to them, but they can understand the sports analogy or other analogies. But again, the idea is that you're so involved in an activity that you're not thinking there. And of course, you still have the ability to think, thoughts come back in. If you ever try to stop thinking, for instance, something like meditation, you can see how difficult it quickly becomes because, again, that principle, effort defeats itself.
Monkey mind.
Say it again, please.
Monkey mind. That's the problem I have with meditation. They call it monkey mind. It doesn't want to shut up for one.
The monkey mind.
Yeah.
The monkey mind. Sure. I mean, there are a few things more difficult than entering a meditation with a sense of determination, right? And then you'll fall quickly into meditation. A lot of times, when you don't want to. Another good analogy for that is sleeping, right? Mm-hmm. When you try to sleep, it becomes incredibly slippery and incredibly elusive.
Yeah, I had that last night, yes. Know the feeling too well. You still there, David?
I'm still here. Oh. Still here.
Okay, I was going to let you continue. I didn't know.
Oh, yeah. No, So in terms of so that's basically there are certain themes. So that is certainly one of them. In order to do to have any level of mastery in just about any topic in life, you have to first make something habitual, right? It has to be so you have to be so used to doing it that you're no longer thinking about it. And again, if you ever played any instrument, you're experiencing muscle memory, and you can pick up a guitar and your fingers start to move. Now, that's when something has already become habitual. At the beginning, if you're talking about some of these abilities, you have to have a starting point. So the main abilities that I'll teach are telekinesis, telekinesis is literally a Greek word. Tele means distance. Kinesis means movement. So the idea of being able to move something from a distance. And it can be thought of from different perspectives, but if we're going back to Star Wars, we're in Empire Strikes Back with the idea when Luke is training. And I should brush up on my Star Wars, but
hey, you got my favorite movie right there. So
yeah, well, you know why it's my favorite one. Also, the three, what I consider the three, right?
Yep.
Because it ends and you're just hanging there and nothing's really resolved, right?
One more.
Han Solo's frozen up, and the good guys don't win this time. So, but this so consider from one perspective, right? The first thing you'd have to do with telekinesis, you can look at it from a 3-step process, which is the first idea is to be able to. An overview would be that thoughts are energy, right? So the idea is you're transferring a thought, which comes from the mental plane, to the physical plane, right? And water is a great analogy for that, as water can be in liquid form, ice form, or can be in vapor form. And the same idea with energy. You're taking it from the mental plane and moving it to physical. Now, to do that, the way that I teach it, 3 steps. Now, the first step is to be able to encounter your inner vibration, your inner energy field. Now, you'll do this in meditation, some forms of yoga, a lot of spiritual traditions, but basically you have to, as we were first discussing, jump out of your thoughts and be able to feel what can best be described as some sort of a vibration or a frequency. Now, if you've never done this before, it can be pretty shocking the first time you do it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you take one of your hands, and your listeners can try this also, and they hold their hand out, let's say with their palm facing up. So you're holding out an empty palm as if you were holding a tray or something in your hand, and that's a good position to start in. And what you're going to try to do is to almost imagine feeling your hand from the inside. So you're not moving your hand. It's not touching anything. You would close your eyes and ask yourself, how do I know right now that my hand is there? I mean, I'm not looking at it. And you direct your thoughts and your feelings into just your hand, the palm. You'll be able to feel the fingers, but you're feeling everything from the inside.
Right.
Now, if you've never done this, something that has to be felt more than experienced, more than thought about, you will start to actually awaken your body. It feels like little impulses. I use the analogy also of a Christmas tree that's lighting up piece by piece. So once you learn how to do that, I don't know what you're doing now, but people listening can try this. They could try it also whenever they're alone and they're trying a meditation. So will actually start to feel the first inkling, the first beginning of your inner aliveness, of your energy itself. But you're becoming cognizant of it. So the first step then is actually learning how to do that, how to be able to bring your energy to the palm of your hand. Some people feel it heat up. Again, some people feel it light up. So would be considered the first step, right? And you can bring don't have to bring it to your hand, of course. The hand is one of the easier places. You can bring it to the left hand. You can bring it to the right hand. You can actually bring it to different parts of your body. If you're talking about many forms of self-healing, same process is involved. You would find a part of your body that's in pain, and the difficult thing is trying to describe it, and that's where things like hypnosis are helpful. But you're literally putting your focus, but the word focus doesn't fully explain it because there's no tension involved, to one part of your body. So that's kind of the first step. So that's the first thing we'll do if we're doing, a lot of times I'll do workshops live, but many times I do them online also, because you have people from all around the world. Yeah. And, we have somebody in the U.S. bending a fork, someone in India concentrating on a spoon. It's a wild scene. But that would be the first step, right?
Can I say something about the first step?
Yeah.
Really quick. I experimented exactly like you're talking about. I read a lot of books in my early 20s. I was really interested in the subject matter since I was a kid. Honestly, even when I was a kid, I was interested in trying to do this stuff. But in my early 20s, I got really serious about meditation and trying this stuff. And I didn't take Reiki or anything like that. But I would, me and some other friends that had this interest would mess with the energy coming from our hands. And you know what happened? We started doing this. I started experiencing like the swirling sensation in my hands. And then it started to move to like my forehead. And this is from somebody else like doing the same energy thing from their hands and holding it up to my forehead. And then I felt that same swirling. And I would experiment with other people like this. Yeah, I was 20 and dumb, not knowing what I'm doing. What I found out later was my chakras were opening. And I had some really weird experiences with that.
Oh, it's a shocking thing for if you're not aware of what's happening and you accidentally stumble upon it, you think something's wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And did you ever consciously go back and do it after that?
Yes, I did. I worked with people a little bit more trained and experienced in Reiki after that. I never took any more training with Reiki, and I kind of scared myself with it, but I still feel it. I can open it up. I can still feel those chakras. I feel like they're like spinning wheels. And I didn't know anything about chakras when this happened to me. And then when I started reading in the description about how it feels for some people, and it's different for for certain people to feel it in different ways, but a lot of people talked about a spinning wheel or this feel of this pressure, this spinning. I'm like, that's exactly what I'm feeling. And that's when I started to get into learning about chakras and that kind of energy. This was something that just came natural to me. I didn't know about chakras. I didn't know about any of that. We were just experimenting.
Well, I love the term swirl, because the second you said that's another way of describing that I can immediately sense is a very accurate way of doing it. So yeah, you'll have the swirling. You'll have some people actually heat up. Other people, again, it's like I lived in Brazil, so sometimes I some of my terminology I struggle for in English, but it would be what we say formiguinhas, which is like these little ants or little insects or something inside. The way you would feel is if you had like something was crawling from the inside. That's kind of what it feels like. The little pinprick type things. But it's very, very pleasurable, very nice. Now, so after that, you learn how to bring that to different parts of your body, right? So you can bring it to your feet. You can bring it to your other hands. Eventually, you'll do a visualization exercise where we connect the entire body. So at some point, and this is something when you first start doing it. By the way, I should say this is a muscle, right? So the first time you'll do it, you'll come through. The second time you'll do different exercises, and there'll be points where you can literally light your whole body up as you're like lying down before you wake up in the morning, when you kind of first are waking up and before you start to move, or at night. Both great times to do it. When you're lying down, it's easier the first times. So that is the first step is finding it. Of course, second step is being able, like I say, to move it to different parts of the body. So, for instance, if you're going to move an object with your hand, okay, which is not necessarily the easiest thing to do, you would have to take a certain object. I work very well with metal, but there are other objects with the exact same force, the exact same effort. Nothing happens for me. So there's also that process of finding your element and what's right for you. Let's just say we had an object in front of me, which I do, and then I would concentrate, bringing everything not to the hand, but to, in my case, specific finger, so it becomes very dense, okay? And then the third step then, first step is encountering it, second step is being able to move it. Third step is the most difficult. It is an exhale kind of a feeling. It probably is equivalent on some level to what a woman feels when she gives birth, that she has to push out in that sense. So you take the energy which is still contained in you, and you jump off the cliff, so to speak. You dive in, you let it go at that point.
Right.
That is when it all goes well. We'll have something move or something bend is what I do a lot of bending of objects also.
I watched some of your videos, and I saw one where you held up a spoon, and you was standing straight up, and you focused on it, and the spoon literally snapped in half in your hands. Like not in the part where you're holding it, it snapped up above where you're not even touching it, and just snapped.
Oh yeah, well. I mean, that's when I do that. I do that a lot of times in my stage presentation. Mm-hmm. It comes at a certain point where we've discussed it and we've shown it, and I talk about exactly what I'm doing now, and I have people feel the energy. Now, what we do in workshops, and like I said, most of them are going more towards online because it's just, you have people from all around, and basically you don't have to physically be there. I remember one time, because of course you have a lot of people who are skeptics, which is very good. I always encourage skeptics. And I think actually a skeptic gave me the idea to do workshops, because I said, listen, I've now been to a few things. I've been to your objects. What is it? What would it take for you to believe? I want you to believe. And he said to me, I believe it if I could do it.
That's a good point. Yeah.
That's great. I said, okay, let me teach you how to do it then. Yep. And then for a number of years when I was living in Rio de Janeiro, because I first started the Mind Artist in Brazil, I would come and I would do, how you would have student assemblies. I would come, I would meet all the students or at the university. I would demonstrate everything, and then afterwards people can sign up and study different topics. So just like they would study dance or theater or what have you, they would come and study different mind development techniques. And that goes back to what we said at the beginning. I was surprised how kids had much better success rate than adults. I've had adults spend things the first time, but you have to deal with the rational mind, and you have to deal with having to kind of a belief systems, and our belief systems are everything. So if it was, I end every video, as you might have seen, and even my show, by saying, if you believe it, it's real. It's kind of like the saying that you'll see, anyone who looks at my stuff will see, and that's really it, because everyone is so into this idea of seeing is believing, but it's kind of inverted, right? It's believing is seeing. It's believing, and you'll be able to do it. So that's a lot of times the first battle. And I tell a person, if you don't believe it, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to do it. So
again, you can go back to that Empire Strikes Back, Dagobah, Luke, and Yoda. And Luke Luke says, I can't do it. I can't lift he's trying to get the X-Wing out of the water. And Yoda goes, and that's why you fail. Do or do not. There is no try. You have to believe. The greatest masters of these things, they believe in what they're doing. Now, when you're talking about you talk about skeptics, I'm sure you get a lot of skeptics that have issues with the spoon bending because of people in the past, like Uri Geller and the Johnny Carson show, incidents like that, and illusionists are like, oh well, people ratchet them, where they pre-bend them and stuff like that. But when you have people do it, that changes the whole thing. It's not you doing it. You're teaching others how to do it. So to me, that makes it real. For me, my dad is a skeptic. Speaking of Father's Day, he's a skeptic. He's very scientific, and he loved that Johnny Carson got Uri Geller kind of thing, And I still like Uri Geller. I don't know if he's legit or not, but for me, I would think about stuff my dad would tell me, like, oh, the spoon bending's not real, but I actually got to experience it once with somebody who was into Reiki and doing these kind of things and had me do it, and I could feel the spoon bending, and it bent, and I did not do it. I did not cheat in any way. It was not ratcheted. All I did was hold it. I could feel like a force. Like I could feel the spoon in my mind. I could feel a force pulling it. I didn't bend it a lot, but I did bend it a little. But after that, I was sold. I totally believe that in the spoon bending phenomenon and people being able to do this with their mind.
That's it. And then regarding Geller, who I'm happy to say that I've actually have met, and I was invited to he lived in a mansion in England, and when I was in London, I was invited, and I met him, and he's wonderful. I mean,
I love his interviews. I listen to a lot of interviews with Uri Geller. I love everything he has to say. I'd love to meet him, But my dad's like, oh, he was busted, he's a scientist.
What happened, that became very famous. But interestingly enough, after that, he actually became much bigger.
Yeah, I know. Oh yeah.
It was proof that it was not some kind of a trick, because obviously who would go on the Johnny Carson show and not be able to do it? But I mean, I can empathize with that, because you're in a situation where, of course, everybody, if you're in a certain event, let's say you're not doing, if you're doing a show at the end, it's fine. You say everything, and at the end, you know you're going to have to do something. But many times in real life, you'll get on topics, and if that topic comes up and the person asks you to do something, I want to do it for sure, of course. And in that moment, then nothing would be greater than being able to do it and show a person. Unfortunately, might not always happen. So it can be a very difficult situation, and it's also difficult, like, in terms of sometimes to even bring up the topic. Like, for me, in general, I know that if we get on the topic, a few things are going to happen. First of all, I always try to use the person's object. It's very big.
Right.
Otherwise, people would think it's some kind of a trick or something.
Like ratcheting, like with the spoon, like somebody pre-ratcheting, bending it beforehand or something.
Yeah, basically, I found that even though of course, I'll bring things if I'm doing a presentation, I always will ask for someone's key or something to that degree, because there are other methods of doing these things, and so that the main thing that I've noticed there is I make everything very slow. I make everything very fair. I say, please, I want to use my own objects. Please touch. Please don't look away. I don't want you to miss it. No misdirection. I want you to watch right here. But you know what I found, Jason, after it all, and after there was a point in my life where I was very defiant and tried to convince people. You're not a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. Basically, I have done, when you're dealing with a skeptic, and you do whatever you see, I basically let them create the conditions. Okay, do it like this, in this situation, in my hand, whatever it is, boom, you do it. And you say, okay, now do it like this, or then you do it. And then every time you do it, it doesn't, there's not a switch where you're going to think, okay, now they believe. No. You just continuously allows you to do it again and again until you get to a point where for me at least, I realized, okay, this person's not going to believe. And now, interesting also, people who do believe don't even need to see you do it, which I think is interesting. Like, look, I'll show you right now. No, I know. You don't have to show. I can do it too. So, I mean, you get both. Hypnosis. Hypnosis is the other, one of the three main topics that I'll do. Hypnosis in itself is inherently fascinating. And another topic where you have a lot of mythology, a lot of people who want to try it. They're very interested. But they're scared. You get a lot of fear in hypnosis.
Oh yeah.
You get a lot of people who they just don't know what a trance is going to feel like. They have no point of reference. Are you
going to take over my mind? That's what I think some people are not familiar with it are afraid of.
And you have hundreds of probably thousands of years of between stories and wives' tales, and you add to that all of the Hollywood and films and people walking around like Frankenstein under some kind of zombie trance. But hypnosis you can almost be thought of as instead of you trying to go into meditation, at least the first step, instead of somebody going into meditation, the hypnotist actually brings a person into the subconscious, kind of turns off their conscious mind, uses content to distract the conscious mind as they communicate with the subconscious. So the first phase of hypnosis, which is usually called the induction or trance, all you're doing is you're using words, right? Your vocabulary, and a few other techniques to bring a person into an extremely peaceful state, the alpha state. And then once they're in that state, guess what? We talked about before. There's no trying. They're relaxed. And as a hypnotist, a good hypnotist at least, you take the patient and you kind of guide them. So a person wants, like the most common things for hypnosis you could probably imagine, you have stop smoking and weight loss, or like the big two. So those are the main questions on there. Can you make me stop eating chocolate cake? Can you make me stop lose weight? Very, very common. And I think people sometimes our throwaway lines are kind of made as almost as a little joke. Can you make me stop eating this? And then, of course, I take it seriously, and I say, actually, I can, but you couldn't make someone, for instance, if you wanted to be hypnotized, what would you want to be hypnotized for to change a habit?
For me, well, I don't smoke cigarettes anymore, but I still use this vapor pen. So I would like not to do that at all. So still smoking, you know.
I'm with you, brother. I know about the vape pen. But if you wanted to stop that, okay. So that would be a very good one because the vape pen has a color, it has a shape, it's something specific. So I would say to you, first I'd find out the condition. And so when do you smoke? And you might say, all right, when do you vape? And you might say, hey, I vape at the end of the night when I want to go to sleep, or I vape at,
morning and coffee.
When I'm anxious.
And the show, because I'm anxious, yes.
Right. So then, just from a theoretical level, understand what's happening in hypnosis. I would find out when you do it. And why do I want to find that information out? So you're a little bit at the beginning, you're doing all your pre-questions, finding it out, because the person, when they're under hypnosis, is going to have an experience that is not real, right? It's an artificial experience, of course. They're imagining what's happening. However, there's a very important thing, and all you really need to know about hypnosis, the reason it works, is this fact. The fact that a person cannot distinguish between a real experience and an imaginary experience. And so, for instance, you can have a thought that if you imagine it strong enough, with enough emotion, that your body will have a physical response to it. We all know we can make ourselves very worried by thinking certain thoughts, and immediately we'll have shivers. Immediately we'll get scared. And vice versa. We can think of certain things and bring ourselves to different states. So the fact that your nervous system does not know the difference between something that is real and something that the brain is imagining, it is the loophole that allows hypnosis to work. So what would happen, Jason, is you would go into trance, incredibly relaxed. That takes usually, if we're talking about on stage, you do fast things. But if you're doing it in a session, anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. Some people quicker, some people, 15, 20 would be a pretty slow session. And then when you relax, it would be my responsibility to recreate that experience of you vaping or whatever it is you want to stop chocolate cake or smoking or whatever it is. And I've had some strange ones.
I bet.
Where you actually feel as though, hey, this time I picked up the vape, brought it to my mouth, and so you had a successful experience. You didn't vape. So, because think about it, if you're talking about any kind of habit, addiction, what have you, the first step is a lot of times the most difficult thing. Person, if they can get through the first day, a lot of times things start to take on their own momentum. So hypnosis is great in that you would do it. You'd go under hypnosis, and in your mind, you would imagine you would have the experience of not doing it, and that creates the neural pathway. That creates a new habit, and that's what you're trying to do. In that case, I would use it. It's hard to describe because it's kind of like a dance. It's a dance between the hypnotist and the patient. But in that experience, your body would feel what it's like to break the habit. Then you would come out, do a few reinforcement things, and basically now it's just a question of reinforcing a habit of not smoking, as opposed to what you normally do. It's weird to say vaping because usually they don't usually say don't vape, usually say don't smoke. But yeah, I don't know if that made sense. So you're giving the body the experience that is not real but feels real, and that in turn makes it real, because after that you've done the very first step, and your body now starts to accept that. It's like with any habit. Think about habits. This really, the whole self-improvement, self-development field is enormous, right? And it all breaks down. And it's fascinating because you can know exactly what you have to do, and never been easier than today. You do a few searches, you learn what you want to do. Okay, I need to do this, this, and this, and everything in my life will change. But then you go out to do it, and you can't do any of it. And you say, what? That's so strange. And that's, for a lot of people, that's kind of like an alarm. That actually, I remember that, I would see videos of myself on stage, and I would look, and I would say, oh, you know what? From an artistic standpoint, it would be better if I did that, or I spoke a different way. And then when you try to do it, it's not so easy, because you're basically, in order to do anything, it has to be in a habitual form. And when you're talking about creating new habits, well, I mean, that's quite a battle if you don't know what you're doing. And most people don't, because habits are not created consciously. Habits are created through the subconscious, right? Think of something think of something you don't even consider to be a habit. And there's tons of stuff with technology like this. Like you pick up your phone, and with one hand, you're texting with your thumb and doing different things. If you wanted to learn how to do that consciously, or a remote control or something, it might not be the easiest thing to have the numbers. So you have the rows of numbers 1, 2, 3, and you have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. For instance, if you're thinking of like a standard layout, you can basically, not even looking, you know where all those positions are. I can move it with your fingers, and you didn't have to train yourself to do that. Somehow you did it a few times, your body picked it up, and then it became automated.
But if you think about it, then you're like, wait, what? Like, I swear, if you just do it, you're like, do it. But if you actually stop yourself and try to think how to like a number you've always typed in. I've had this happen to me a billion times. Like, you just randomly type it in, but for some reason you stop yourself and go, wait, what's that number? It's like your body knows more than you do.
That's a weird thing, and I experience that a lot also with music, when I'm messing around. It's just strange that you have to go back to before the part in the song to go back and play it right, because if you're thinking about it, again, it doesn't work.
Yep.
That to me is, I mean, that's kind of like where I want to say where the rubber hits the road, but that's where you have like this conflict between something that seems so easy. You already know how to do it, but again, if you can't think of it and do it because it's habitual. So basically, any kind of, I mean, and for the people listening out there, I mean, any kind of self-improvement, any of these things you want to learn, you want to get it into habit form. Because if you're going to have to make yourself do it consciously, you'll see it won't work very long. Good example, of course, going to the gym. It's a little different, right? Because that's like you're creating the habit of like whatever, which is a complex habit of going to the gym and getting your stuff and having a time and all those things. Now, if you do it right, which we've done it right for periods in our lives, there's a point in time where that's not effort anymore. It's a pleasure. Like you're getting pulled to go to the gym. Your body wakes up after a few weeks or whatever it is for the person, and you feel strange if you don't do the habit. And it's kind of when you're past the tipping point.
I do want to get, before we get deeper into this subject, take our last commercial break and also open the phone lines if people have questions too. And there's something I want to circle back to about Uri Geller too, that I have a question for you. Really, something I've always thought about that, again, that Johnny Carson situation, something that might explain what happened to them and maybe what my theory was on it. Because I've always thought he was so interesting. He seems so legitimate. And he used to do the TV thing where you'd have like, grab your watches, grab your clocks and your dead clocks, and I'll make them start. I did one of those live events. I did that, and I swear to God, my dead watch, and I killed batteries, started. So I've been convinced.
That was with Geller?
Yeah, it was Uri Geller. He did a live TV thing. This was years ago. It was when I still lived with my parents. And he was a live TV thing. It's like, go get your dead watch. And I got a dead watch. And I swear to God, it came back. Everybody's focusing on their dead watch. It was a live TV event. It was many years ago. And I swear it worked. So I was like, okay, I need to rethink about Uri Geller, because that really did happen, So there's something, I have a theory on that. I
want to talk about that too. Sure, after the break, let's do that.
Okay, awesome. All right, guys, we play music out to late night in the Midlands radio radio network that you cannot hear on Facebook, because Facebook doesn't like that. When we get back, we're going to talk to our guest, David Dean, the mind artist. We're going to talk about more things like hypnosis, the Uri Geller deal. If are not familiar with it, look it up after the show. When we come back, we'll also have the phone lines available. Don't call yet. Wait till I tell you. All right, guys, we'll be back with you in just a few minutes. Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is David Dean, the mind artist. We're talking a lot about stuff about the power of the mind. What can the mind do? Telepathy, telekinesis, amazing things that I believe the mind can do. I said earlier in the show, my religion's kind of Jediism. I believe in the power of the mind and what people can do. I really do believe people can move objects with their mind. I also want to talk about hypnosis. That's something I've never got to do. I've always wanted to be hypnotized, not just to quit smoking, just to explore the mind. It's so fascinating to me. Now, we do have open phone lines tonight. There are a couple ways you can call in. There's the Soup live chat, 800 live chat, Skype ID. That's a video call-in line. You can call on that. We also have an audio-only Skype ID, which is one of the best ways to call, is OOJBland00 or OOJBLAND00. That's that Skype ID. And there's also a phone line, 219-230-4444. 219-230-4444. Now, if you call and I hang up on you or I put you on hold, just wait. Or if I hang up on you, try calling back after that phone call gets off. I can only have one person on at a time, sadly. One day I'll have a bigger setup. But let's get back to our guest.
It's funny that you bring up the Johnny Carson, which of course got lots of hits and stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
But if you ever want to see the greatest Geller, the equivalent of the Johnny Carson show in the UK, in England, was a guy called David Dimbleby, very famous. And that's, if you ever see Geller and Dimbleby, you'll see just the performance that made him famous all around the world. It was the night where he was on with BBC, and tons of forks and spoons started bending while he was on the air.
I remember.
And then later on, it's important to talk about having met him also, and he is a friend. He is the first person to ever be certified as a psychic, and it was from Stanford University in '72. And they did full tests on him. You can actually see them. The SRI series, they're online. You can watch them, and with astrophysicists, and over, I think, about 5 to 6 week period. So, I mean, it's funny that in life, sometimes our slip-ups or remember the times that things didn't work. But again, interestingly enough, one thing he talked about is after that, he even became more famous.
Well, this is my question I've always wanted to ask somebody, especially, you've met Uri Geller. What I've always thought about this, is because me and my dad would talk about this stuff. He's the skeptic. I'm the kind of the I want to believe X-Files fan kind of guy. And one of the things I always thought that maybe is the power of the people around him at that night when he's on Johnny Carson. So one, you had James Randi, the skeptic, who was behind the scenes on that, because the Johnny Carson show called him and said, we want to make sure there's no illusions or tricks. What do we need to do? And James Randi gave him a list of things they should do and how to set it up. And to James Randi, this disproved Uri Geller. I mean, he wrote books about trying to dissuade Uri Geller and all this stuff. But my thing is, you got Johnny Carson, who was a magician. You got James Randi. You got an audience of people watching live. Does other people's lack of belief, or I guess, just lack of belief, like this guy's a fraud, or people just having that intent when he came on there to just like kind of disprove him, can that stop somebody's ability?
It's a tough question to answer, because I know for me, it kind of juices me up. And I get kind of angry, and a lot of times that will lead to great things happening, but it's also happening where I've just been stunted at those moments.
That's what I wondered.
in a situation like that, they actually changed all like his things and changed it around what had become a standard general routine. And unfortunately,
they tricked him too. They tricked him too because they said these are all the questions we're going to ask and do all this. They didn't say he was going to be doing any of this, and they tricked him. So that to me wasn't totally fair play either.
And by the way, you won't be able to find an unedited version because it was about for 20 minutes. But if you ever do find the unedited version, he actually did bend a spoon there. Now they said, well, it wasn't bent so much. That's
but he
true,
did.
But I mean,
but he did.
That's a crazy thing. But I mean, and it's very interesting how people react to things. I mean, just that statement. Well, you bent it, but you didn't bend it very much. It's pretty shocking to me.
Yeah, me too.
But I've had that. I've had that situation also though when like you really want to deliver and you cannot, and it's terrible. I mean, there's nothing better in that moment when somebody it's a put up or shut up moment, of course, and if you can put up all the better, because if skeptics who then I do get this a lot. People say, I did not believe, completely didn't believe, that it was all BS, and now after you I believe, which for me is the greatest compliment. The best. But I mean, look, if you for every one case of something not done, I can give you 10 cases where it's been done. And by the way, people have the right to their opinion, so that's fine. In general, as I get older, and by the way, you have, and you know this, you look at Twitter, you look at any of these social media things for celebrities, for people who are doing great things. There's always going to be haters. There's always going to be people listing stuff.
Oh yeah.
These celebrities don't even read their Twitter feeds. I mean,
I wouldn't.
They can't. So there is you make a good point, because there's a lot to this idea of not knowing something has happened, and that if you would have known, you wouldn't have been able to do it. But somehow, since you didn't know, thank God, and you were able to do it, right? If you like, and a classic example, so any kind of bad news that has happened but you're not aware of yet won't affect you, right? You don't know about it, but it's happened already. So I mean, whenever you're dealing with also professional athletes, I think it's so telling that a professional athlete who's a superstar and who's just like world renowned can have a bad game or whatever, a few bad games, and they talk about their confidence. Their confidence is down. Like, you have confidence issues?
Yeah, millions of dollars. You better not.
Yeah. when we're dealing with the mind, very, very slippery things. And by the way, even yes, I am expert on the subject. I am the mind artist. I teach other people. But I mean, even for myself, I experiment a lot with self-hypnosis for different things, which is, it's just a difficult thing in itself. And it's very, very slippery. These things are very slippery. For a moment, you're in state, you feel great, you're like, you know what? I can do this. And then, boom, your state changes. I mean, if there's one formula, these things are coming to my mind, but that I like, the formula is thought times emotion equals reality. So that's good. It's kind of important. I'll say it again. Thought times emotion equals reality. So let's take a topic we haven't discussed, the third topic, which is actually the most common topic when you see people do stuff, which is telepathy. And I tell anyone who's any of your listeners, if you want any information on all my stuff, you'll find me in my handles, The Mind Artist. But I have videos on these topics, and I teach these topics. But telepathy is an interesting one because people talk. It's described a lot of times as mind-to-mind communication, the idea of sharing a thought.
Oh yeah.
And there's a few different aspects to it. The first thing I would say is we don't really think in words, right? We think in pictures.
Mm-hmm.
So right there, if you're taking a word, you're already taking an abstraction of the original thought. So we can't capture a thought. A thought is just energy. Nobody really knows what a thought is. But the best way to capture a thought, if we had a picture of a dog, right, and we had someone from France and from Spain and from China here, and we showed them the picture, they would all understand that that's a dog. They would have different names for it in other languages, right? But they would all, the picture kind of cuts through that. Now, when you get to words, you're already twice removed from the original thought. So whenever you're doing telepathy, you always want to try to get a person to have the actual universal kind of a picture, a symbol. That's the best way to share a thought. Now, what you have to do along with that, we go back to the equation, thought times emotion. You have to, and same thing with hypnosis, you have to kind of dip the thought in so that it feels real in an emotional state. And that's the same also for motivation, for visualizations, all these things. There's a thought component, but then there's always the emotion that makes it real. And the actual etymology of the word telepathy is and I do this also when I explain it, I feel telepathia. Tele means distance, like television, but pathia really gives you the secret. Pathia means feeling. So it's not mind reading as much as feeling a thought. You feel the thought, and the body sends the message. So you don't need to say to someone you love, I love you. You feel, I love you. And that's how it gets through.
We do, I want to continue on the subject of telepathy. We do have a call on the line here. We got Zach on the line. How you doing tonight, Zach?
I'm doing pretty good, brother. How you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for calling. You always have great questions. So what is your question for David tonight?
Well, I have two questions. I promise to keep them as short as possible. Hey, David. It's very good to meet you, man.
Zach, man, good to speak to you. Thanks for calling.
My first question to you, it goes back to the brain. So let me ask you this. What part of the brain allows you to manipulate objects, for example, with the power of your mind?
Yeah, I could tell you what I feel when I do it. It doesn't come from the brain in the sense that the origins of it are a thought. But the thought, like we said before, like water can change from gas form to ice form to liquid form. The actual thought is transferred into physical energy inside of your body first. So that's the process of feeling it. Now, you're asking where does that thought come from? Where does it first? I don't know how to answer that other than it swirls. I immediately bring it into, let's say, my hand. For instance, from my hand, I'll bring it to a finger. From the finger, I'll bring it to the tip of the finger. I'll let it marinate. I'll let it get strong. I'll let it build momentum like a snowball builds momentum. And then I'll shoot it out. And when I shoot it out, sometimes things will happen, sometimes they won't. So that's how I feel it. So I don't necessarily feel a sensation from the brain. I mean, there might be people who can do it like that. But for me, it's an immediate transfer into the physically inside the body and then shut out. I hope that made some sense to you.
Okay, no, it did make sense. And then my second question, it goes along the topic of telepathy. You explained a little bit that when you're doing a mind-to-mind communication, that it comes in the form of a thought. So let's say, for example, that I'm thinking of something, and then we share that connection in some ways. My question to you is it a literal thought, or is it really just your mind's interpretation of that thought?
Is it a literal thought or a mind's interpretation of that thought?
Correct.
You're saying is the person received, because when you're talking about telepathy, you have a sender, right? A sender and a receiver. So you're saying when the person receiving, are they just interpreting the thought?
Yeah, that's really just what I'm thinking of. It's almost like a game of telephone in some ways. Like, you say one thing and then it goes down the line and then it gets interpreted to something else. That's really just what I'm...
Oh, I see. So, well, that can happen. There can be add-ons. So when telepathy works the best and it's cleanest, in my experience, it would be, right, obviously something recognizable, something simple, some kind of a picture. Now you have to have the sender who's going to send that thought is going to send, and they're going to try to send it in a very specific way. They're going to have a picture, the actual content of the of the thought, capturing it as best they can, and they have the form, which is the emotion. Now, as to what's happening to your question, I think your person A and person B are sharing a thought. So in that moment, it is not the conscious mind of person A and conscious mind of person B sharing it. That would be the interpretation you're talking about. It's more like you have two people, both of them meet on the subconscious, in the subconscious, right? Think of the subconscious as a place more than a thing. So it's like, let's say I would be on this, I would go to a frequency, I'm sending the thought on a frequency, and you would almost tune in, like you tune into a radio, to that frequency, and then our minds are too strong. The thought is transferred on the subconscious, but only then when you go out and say, what were you thinking of, and you say it. When you put that's when the rational mind comes in, and that's when what you're talking about in terms of add-ons or some kind of interpretation could come in because you're not sure what you thought, and you know what, I saw this. But now in my mind, it's not clear, and I would guess it's this. That's where you'll have some guesswork come in. I saw this object, I'm not sure. It could be this, because a lot of times also thoughts get inversed, right? They get inverted. So letters sometimes come on. Letters are easy because they're inverted, but you can recognize what they are. So that can happen also. So that's what I would say. I would say it's usually the conscious mind that will add interpretation, but when it's done pure, think about something really simple. Think about chemistry between two people, right? You'll meet someone, you'll immediately like them or not like them, right? And you can't necessarily always say rationally what that is. Well, in that moment, there's a communication there between not a conscious communication. On the subconscious mind, there's some kind of connection or lack of connection, and you like or don't like the person for that reason. It has been proven that at any moment, right, there's tremendous amount of information passing. I think 2,000 bits of information of which we're aware of, and God knows how many times more of that we're not aware of. So intuition then becomes something that you can look at very rationally. Intuition is when you're receiving signals, but you're not aware that you're receiving them. So you don't know why you don't like this person. You could call it intuition, but it's that that your body, let's say, or your non-conscious mind, we're aware of things that you can't put into conscious word.
Okay, no, I definitely get what you're saying. Those were really all the questions I had for you, David, and I'm very grateful that you answered them all, man. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, it's fun, man. Nice to talk to you. Take care.
Jason, may I ask you a question that goes along with that?
Yeah,
How would that differ
Thanks,
from
Zach,
shared
for calling
dreaming?
All right, thank you so much, brother. You have a happy Father's Day, okay?
Yeah, you too. Sorry, Jamie. I want to make sure I hung up with Zach. You might want to ask that question again.
How would that differ from shared dreaming?
Shared dreaming? Do you mean lucid dreaming?
Yeah.
Well, lucid dreaming is a fascinating topic. Now, it's not my field of expertise. I do think it's incredible. I don't claim to do lucid dreaming, but for instance, lucid dreaming is that point. It's different in the sense that, well, let me. Lucid dreaming is at that point where you're kind of awake, but you're not fully awake. That's a lot of times you'll have the TV in the background, and you're dreaming also, and you're on the TV. You have Jimmy Fallon talking, and then all of a sudden you're talking to someone else in your dream, but the person has Jimmy Fallon's voice. You're like, wait, what's going on? Because you have one foot in the reality, one foot in the conscious world, right, and one foot in the unconscious, and they kind of mix. Lucid dreaming is just that you have enough. You're aware enough to realize, oh my God, I'm dreaming now. I can kind of steer this, like I steer a car. when that happens, it's amazing. No, lucid dreaming, is more the feeling that you'll get in hypnosis.
That's what I always wondered, because I've lucid dreamed, and it was more than once, and it's an incredible experience every time. And Jamie, you brought up shared dreaming. That's something that interests me, because me and my wife have had a couple times where we've shared a dream, and I had that experience with my mom too.
What do you mean? I'm sorry. What do you mean by shared dreaming? Can you explain that? That was not clear to me.
Basically the same thing as the shared thinking and meeting on like another plane, kind of, but only you're sleeping instead of
like what I was talking about. Yeah. I shared a dream with me and my wife. We both dreamt of the same thing the same night, and just by chance talked about it, and we're like, oh my God, that's what I was dreaming. We were in each other's dreams. It's a weird experience.
Wait, that's strange. So you're not saying you both had the exact same dream. You're saying you appeared in her dream and she appeared in your dream?
Exactly.
I've never. That's amazing. And then did you afterwards? Did you talk about that and like try to verify
yes.
were you in the same place and stuff?
Yes, I wish my wife was on here. Yes, I don't want to get into details because it's kind of like some personal stuff in that. But yeah, there was details that I said, was this there? She goes, oh my God, seriously, that we dreamt the same dream. You were there. It was at a party, and I saw her there and she saw me. In this dream, and stuff was going on. It was actually a memory of hers that she was reliving in this dream. And I was in it, even though I wasn't there in that original memory.
So, Jamie, then I would say that that would make a lot of sense then. You're meeting, in a sense, in the subconscious. That's so lucid dreaming a little bit different, of course. But yeah, shared dreaming, very interesting. Yeah, that's one of the nice things. I never stop learning. I'm always here. By the way, I'm constantly meeting people and hearing things that I've never heard of that are just amazing all the time.
It's amazing what the mind can do. It's to me, it's the undiscovered country. Is within us. There's so much more we could explore within our own mind.
So that is one of the goals, and I say this at the end when I'm doing a live performance, which is my goal is to show the beauty of the mind, everything that it's capable of.
I love that.
So if I can just get a person, off, just to question things a little bit, not necessarily to think how are things done, because that's still rational. But why I'm doing it, and that's really the reason, because I believe that anything is possible with the power of the mind, and I want people who see me and interact with me to believe that also. Now, the difficult thing, interesting, you would say, but yeah, we just put some videos out on YouTube and do that. Of course, I've done that, but the problem there is people do think of trickery. They do think things are fake. So you need to think of something like telepathy. Like telepathy, if you're in an audience with 200, 300 people watching, what have you, if you do it with one person, it's a natural response. The person says, "Now, what am I thinking? What am I thinking?" So the practicality of doing that for everyone, first of all, it's not interesting to watch, because after the second or third,
right. Nobody cares what you're thinking.
Or we used to have a joke, there's some thoughts that I prefer not to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of a thing. I mean, so it's a personal experience. So all these things, hypnosis, and people, a lot of times, the best analogy I can give to hypnosis is it's like, if anyone's ever been high, or if there's ever, or if people have been drunk in their life, it's one like being high. But those are experiences that are very hard to put into words. How could you explain to someone what it's like to be a little tipsy if you never had a drink? So you do your best, but again, the language makes everything very, very difficult. Incredibly so. My perspective and the way I decided to do the Mind Artist is always to see these things through the perspective of the mind. Now, it's different, right? We're together, paranormal, we're all believers, or we all love these things. So this terminology for us is wonderful. But there are certain people you talk to, and you'll say certain words, and they will immediately tune off.
Yeah, it puts them out because they don't believe.
they don't believe. But you know what's funny? They might believe if you use different words.
True.
For instance, spiritual terminology. This happens a lot, right? Because I'll have, let's say, the paranormal kind of terminology. You'll have spiritual terminology. You'll have more like scientific terminology. I mean, and then you'll have like a whole different section of like religious terminology, and they're all saying the same thing. When they say something like God, they're referring to the subconscious or to consciousness, or they're referring to, it depends, but you're looking for consistently and constantly, how you can connect these things and how you can have people understand they're talking about the same experience.
Semantics.
It's amazing.
Semantics,
Semantics is everything, yeah.
When you talk about I want to get back to the little bit of the telepathy thing, because like I said, my early 20s, I was really experimenting with a lot of these different concepts and ideas, and I remember being in my early 20s and having this girl, and we were both like totally into the paranormal, totally into trying to experiment with like telepathy and of course Ouija boards and all other kinds of crazy stuff. But we did these telepathy experiments with each other. And we were getting really good at like basically reading each other's minds. It was a lot of feeling and a lot of pictures, but there would even be words. Like I could almost hear thoughts. It was one of the most craziest experiences. We totally connected. But, it was like Pandora's box, because then we were sharing like thoughts with each other. I know this sounds crazy, people. I really did experience this with this person. I won't say her name. And I started getting like her true intentions to me, which was more than friends. And she immediately started, and this was no words exchanged, knew that that's not my intentions. This was all in a matter of a night of us like getting intense with this telepathy experiment. And we could like totally tell how each other felt just through thought. And it kind of broke up our friendship. It was like it's like we opened up our thoughts too much to each other. Like, it was a really weird experience. Me and my wife, we've done these experiments together, and we definitely read each other's minds, but we're fine with it. We don't have any problems. Of course, this situation with this girl is that she wanted to, be more than a friend, and that was it was all transferred in a matter of just sitting there and just sharing our thoughts without speaking. It was the weirdest experience, and it actually screwed up our friendship.
Oh, I could see that. It's women tend to be better at intuition and telepathy than men, which is interesting in and of itself. But there's reasons for that. I mean, and scientifically, they talk about when a mother is with the child before the child, of course, learns to speak. She without realizing it unconsciously, picks up certain cues, let's say, for body language, and knows what the baby wants on her own, and there's that that connection that unfortunately, Jason, you and I don't understand, right, as men, but that is the type of thing that is constantly happening in terms of chemistry. I mean, chemistry between two people, is almost telepathy for sure. I mean, you can't, and sometimes you're trying to have a conversation and trying to understand what my girlfriend or what your wife, what they're feeling, and they can't put it into words, and then that leads to all different types of communication breakdowns, of course, because trying to put it into words is the mistake. But if you go to the same place with them and you feel with them and you're conscious with them, somehow there's a weird understanding. So, I mean, that is it certainly is a skill that I can't say it is universal, but it does seem to exist in the majority of people. Even if we don't know why it exists, we know that it exists to a small or a large extent, And people, again, you have to see it. I'm very, for instance, you watch financial markets. Let's talk about forecasts and predictions. And then a lot of times you'll see the word, I just had a gut feeling on it. It's the same thing we're talking about, right?
Right.
So all very, very fascinating topics. Now, they're all also subjects that I do not want anyone to think are 100%, because they're not 100%. And even for me, and especially when you're on the stage, it's a little bit different. I have certain advantages. People will be nervous, so I'll be able to lead them in certain ways, certainly with hypnosis. But you're just looking for glimpses. You're looking for small inklings where a person starts to feel something or be aware of certain abilities, a certain kind of a skill that they never had before. Look at music as another great example. You, me, Jamie, and a bunch of friends could have 10 people. We could have a great instructor come in, teach us violin, and he could teach us how music works, and we could take courses. But maybe naturally, maybe you have better pitch, and maybe Jamie has better finger dexterity, or what have you. So there's an instinct. There's a natural side to it, and there's also a studied side, right? There's the instinctive side and an intuitive side.
I totally believe it. I mean, for me, telepathy, I think if there's any stronger mind power that I have, telepathy might be one of them, because I've freaked people out, not on purpose, but where I've said things and they're like, I was just thinking that, like sometimes detailed things. Like I remember a coworker, I just said, man, I don't know why, but man, I want Chinese food right now. That's what I want. And she goes, that's exactly what I'm thinking about right now is Chinese food. You know, stuff like that, just stupid little stuff like that. But people like, you know, I'll throw people off in conversations because I'll say something. They're like, what? Like, that's exactly what I was thinking. And I don't know if I'm just good at, reading people's body language. I am a good poker player.
That's a good way to go.
But I swear I get these mental images, or I'll even hear thoughts, like, sentences in my head, and I'll repeat them or say them, and that's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, like today, I went and I texted my manager right at the same, telling him, hey, remember to check payroll. And he goes, oh my God, that's exactly what I was thinking about right at this moment.
Yeah, it's a strange thing. And you said you do it a lot of times. You actually hear the voice, and people have experienced it. For me, it's always been a visual thing. Mm-hmm. I'll see an image, and it gradually kind of develops. But you hear it.
Yeah, I do both. I'll see things in my mind's eye, or I'll actually hear. It'll be it won't be like I hear their voice in my head. It'll be my inner voice. That little inner voice that talks to you. In a way, it'll say. So I'll think it's my thought. And I'll say it, and they'll be like, oh my God, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Well, it's funny. The inner voice now is kind of in our culture and society has been there. I want to say making a comeback, although it's always been there. Now, what you're talking about, it's like a whisper kind of a feel to it. Mm-hmm. It comes in there. There's so much talk about shedding the ego and enlightenment now, and people understanding for the first time, what is the ego and how do you do transformation? And that's these are all kind of intertwined, because the thing that all these telepathy and telekinesis, hypnosis all have in common is when they're happening in that moment when I bend a spoon, in that moment when two minds meet, in that moment when you're under trance, the ego does not exist. You, Jason, don't exist in that instant. I, David, in that moment, I'm not there. And that's such a pleasurable, wonderful feeling to kind of be rid of the burden of all your life's problems and personality for that second. And that's, to a large degree, the spiritual quest, right? Mm-hmm. The spiritual quest is how do you bring that state of non-thinking, that state of relaxation, that ability to turn off your thoughts, even for an instant, into your life. And a lot of people cannot even do that for a second. Meditation is like sitting down and practicing it, but what you really want is to be able to bring enough awareness into your life as you're doing whatever habits or things you want to change in your life. So, and that's in real time. So, any of these habits that a person wants to change, for instance, first they have to be aware of themselves in real time as they're doing it. eating is good here, right? Because you're talking to people. Say, I want to stop eating whatever pizza at night. Let's just say. So what usually happens is they'll go through their entire fight, those mind games of, okay, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it real. I'm not going to, and then maybe they'll do it. Maybe they won't. At some point, usually they will do it, and they won't have regret until afterwards. You see, the awareness of what's really happened comes in afterwards. And in order to change, you have to have enough conscious awareness, enough of this presence, enough of being able to not think, so that muscle gets strong enough so that when they're actually reaching for the pizza, reaching for whatever it is they're eating, before it happens, while it's happening, they have to be conscious of it. It's a weird thing because what's happening is they'll see their hands move, they'll see themselves taking a bite, but they'll be witnessing how they are almost a prisoner to the habits, and we are. Most of the time we're not conscious, right? Most of the time we're conscious, of course, so we're not sleeping, but in spiritual terms we're conscious, and that we're not aware of what we're doing. We're on complete autopilot because that's the beginning of our conversation. And in order to unwind that process, that is what is, a lot of times you'll hear the word transformation turn around. And transformation is when a person has basically changed enough of their habits that they basically, for all intents and purposes, are a different personality. We say they're transformed, but all that really means is all their old, I don't want to call them good or bad, but let's just say their old habits, many of them are faced with new habits which are more pleasant for them for whatever they want to do. But in order to change, in order to transform, you have to be able to see things happening in real time. You have to be spiritual. That's where the spiritual connects with the subconscious. When I say spiritual, same thing as the subconscious. It's that same place where the conscious mind is turned off, right? And why is that so important? Why is that important if you want to do your life and change certain things? I don't know. Because that's the key. If you cannot stop thinking for a second and you can't build this muscle up, you will not be able to change, unfortunately, your habits through willpower. Willpower is a fantastic thing. Willpower is amazing to overcome small obstacles in your life. But willpower is a very limited resource. So you might get yourself to do something, but then you're out of that resource of willpower. So willpower is kind of what we're not about. Willpower is about effort and force. Now the problem with conversations sometimes is that we're brought up believing that willpower and effort and force are, that's the road to success. Of course, they're very important in success. Of course, they're very important in studying and getting what you want in those things. However, they're only important from the perspective of the conscious mind. Whenever you're dealing with anything in the realm of the subconscious, the willpower is kind of the enemy. So it's the old, you learn to ski in the summer and swim in the winter kind of idea. You learn the thing when you're not consciously doing it.
Got to live in the moment.
Living in the moment is yes, it's part of it. Living in the moment is that idea that that whatever is happening, if you resist it because you don't like it or whatever, you're actually fueling the ego. You're actually of course you're making yourself usually miserable because resistance, right? Resistance is one of the main tools of the ego. So is judgment. And when we say ego, we're not talking about an egoistical person or selfish. That's not. We're talking about the idea of personality itself. You always want to go back to who you were, Jason, before you had a name. Who you were before when's your first conscious memory? How old were you?
Actually, pretty young. It amazes my mom. One of my first memories I can go back to was before I could talk. And the reason I say I knew I couldn't talk yet is me and my cousin Phil, who is only a month younger than me, we were still wearing pull-ups, diapers. And I remember him crawling under a bed and getting stuck. And I remember not being able to communicate this to my aunt, my mom, that my cousin was stuck under the bed. Like I couldn't form words, but I was conscious of it. It's the weirdest memory, of being, being like, come here, but I don't know how to say come here, but the thoughts there, it's so weird. It's such a weird memory I have, but it's a very young memory. I wasn't even really like one yet. I mean, like I was maybe just 1 year old.
But you remember trying to communicate, but not having the tools to communicate.
Yeah, it might have been 1.5, getting close to 2, maybe. I think I was
That's
just
very, very young.
I remember my mom saying, "There's no way you can remember that. You were way too young to remember that." I'm like, I do.
Yeah, that goes. For most people, it's images, it's flashes, and then it's like fast forward, and you're in like first grade, and then you have those types of things. But it's one of those reasons, like when you see a baby, next time you see a baby, you see how people respond to babies, and it's funny just people's response to the baby making googly eyes or whatever. Mm-hmm. And there's something that is so when you see a baby, it's not judging you. It has no thoughts in its head, and just that consciousness, something in you recognizes that part of yourself.
The purity.
Purity is a good word. And it's, by the way, it doesn't just happen with babies. Anything that you like, whether it's a movie, a song, any form of art, you look at a picture, and your mind goes blank. There's a moment there where you're almost recognizing in yourself that state. And what immediately happens is the ego I shouldn't say immediate layers. The ego is formed throughout all our life's experiences, all the things that happen to us, cover up. And then, by the way, when we're covering up these layers of conscious with, we're wrapping them up with ego, we're also losing the ability to lots of these skills that we have, that the mind has. And even though we have memories and we have glimpses of them, for the most part, for most people, they either don't believe it, or it's so far removed from these early memories. You do that a lot in hypnosis also. You'll bring people back to different ages. And there's a nice little saying we have, which is that the part brings back the whole. The part brings back the whole. So what does that mean? If you've ever looked back at old pictures, and you don't remember anything from a vacation or something, and you start looking at the pictures, you'll start seeing certain things. You start seeing like the T-shirt you wore and the day at the beach or whatever it was. And the part, just a picture, brings back the whole experience. So it's all there. It's inside your mind, but just that you need that little inkling, a little glimpse to bring back a little clue. And you do that in hypnosis a lot. You'll bring a person back, and you'll try to get one little thing that they didn't think about, and then the floodgates open.
It's crazy what the mind can remember. I've never been hypnotized. I've always wanted to be, but I've always been interested. I've read a number of books on it. I've seen people hypnotize, and it's amazing what the mind can remember when people are under such stuff that they consciously could not tell you, or remember. But under hypnosis, man, they can get very detailed with memories. Yeah,
you see, now hypnosis. Now, it's all situational, right? So if I'm on a stage, doing hypnosis is certainly the riskiest part for me.
Oh, I bet.
Because you don't know if it's going to work, you don't know what's going to come out. So, for instance, if you're on stage, if you're doing something publicly, you tend to put people in situations where they can dream and fantasize and act out things they could never normally act out. When you're doing privately, I do, by the way, we do a lot of hypnosis, and anyone who wants to check out later on, you'll find me The Mind Artist at mindartist.com, I said. But one of the things you'll see is we do hypnosis and we do it online. We do it on the phone.
Really?
And this, a lot of people, that response is the most common response. How can you do hypnosis on the phone? How can you do it on the video? And online, excuse me. It actually works much better than in person. And this confused the hell out of me for a long time. Now it makes sense, though, because the biggest objection people have to hypnosis, even though everybody wants to try it, they're curious, they are scared. They're scared. That is, and that was certainly the case when you have people come into the office, and it's scary. And that fear of that they're going to not remember anything or be gone prevents them from going in. However, that's all gone. That's all gone on the phone. That's all gone when they can experience it from the comfort of their own home. Right?
They're not in front of an audience, for one,
Say it again?
They're not in front of an audience like you would be on stage.
In front of an audience, it's a weird dynamic because you're almost doing things more for the audience than for the people being hypnotized. Now, when there's no audience, so that means it has to be faster, it has to be more entertaining. However, when you're doing it one-on-one, you can take your time, go deep. They're not in front of an audience. Although, that being said, some people are better in front of an audience. There's a beautiful quote, which is, you give a man a mask, and he'll show you who he really is. You give a man a mask, and he'll show you who he really is. You would say, no, the opposite. He has a mask on, he can't see himself. No. The mask allows him to reveal himself.
The inner self.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like, hypnosis on stage is its own animal. But we're talking, like, with most people, when they'll contact me, they want to change something. They either want to stop a bad habit or create a new habit. More times than not, stop a bad habit. And
I want to make sure you get enough time, David, because we're at the last minute. We're running out of time that you get out.
You told me it would go fast.
I know. I told you it always does. And I really do, David. I want to get you back on again because there's so much more we could talk about. You're one of those guests I go, God, I got to take this show 3 hours. You're definitely one of those guests that make me think about that because there's so much more we could talk about. But I want you to get your information out because we're at the end of the show where people can contact you and all your links.
Sure. So it's really easy. It's always The Mind Artist, and it's always together. So if it's the site, it's themindartist.com. If it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube, it's always /The Mind Artist, all together, one word. And if you Google me and you put down David Dean, The Mind Artist, you'll find stuff. Anyone can contact me. I'm happy to answer questions. Do a lot of stuff online that we didn't even touch. And Jason, man, you're a pro. It was great talking to you. Just a great interview overall. And I want to thank you and Jamie and all your guests.
Well, thank you, David. Like I said, I definitely want to get you on again to talk more, a part 2, because there's so much. The mind is such an incredible thing to me, and I was so excited to have you on to talk about this. Thank you so much. And like I said, I definitely want to get you on again to talk more about this.
Absolutely, and I encourage all your listeners also, you can go ahead and add me on whatever it is you use, and again, talk to me from there, and we'll do it again for sure.
Awesome.
Hey, wait, Jason.
Yeah.
May the force be with you, man. May the force be with you.
May the force be with you, David. You have a great night. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Check us out at Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, our Facebook page, or on YouTube at Paranormal Soup. Check us out at Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. We need your help. Go to the website, Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network.com. Donate, subscribe. Do what you can to help keep this network going and our great hosts that we have here. We couldn't do it without your donations and help. All right, guys, next week we're going to have an excellent guest, Dark Water. If you're not familiar with him, look him up. He's a YouTuber. He tells some amazing ghost stories. He kind of puts his own flavor and spin on ghost stories people tell him. He's a master of the ghost story, and I cannot wait to have him on. Thank you guys again. Have a great night. See you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. See you then.